worth saying if it's already said. Even if it all goes over your head, believe it if you want to. So keep your eyes on the road and your head in the stars. Follow it down the rabbit hole just a little while longer. You can change anything if you want to. Sing it like ooh, if you want to. Sing it like ooh, if you want to.
And welcome back. Welcome to our next session, which is Marketing for Gamers. My name is Larry Jeager of Sponsorverse, and with me today is Jeff Cohen of EEG, Finn Stabler and Bill Tusta of Chicken Waffle. And I'm going to let the guys introduce themselves down the line here quick, and then we'll queue up the topic and jump right into it.
So, hey, I'm Finn from Chicken Waffle. We're a game development studio in Austin, Texas, focused on creating immersive content and video games, and we've done a whole slew of work-for-hire, product visualization, educational experiences, and recently built a lot of like social metaverse experiences, and bringing thousands of people together for social events online.
Jeff Cohen, Vice President of Strategy at Esports Entertainment Group. We are a publicly traded esports entertainment and online gambling company. We're an esports betting operator. We also do traditional sportsbook, iGaming, and then on the esports side, we do in-person events, tournaments. We own a few event centers. We also partner with traditional sports leagues.
I'm Bill Tustin. I'm the CFO of Chicken Waffle, and I'm also the owner of Sanitag.
All right, thanks, guys. And once again, I'm Larry Jeager. I'm the founder and CEO of Sponsorverse. Sponsorverse is a traditional marketing agency and also an esports marketing agency. We focus on high school and collegiate, as well as theme parks. I'm also managing partner of Esports Development Corp. We develop esports arenas and gaming centers, and we currently have announced a deal with Cedar Fair, one of the largest theme park entities in the country, with 15 amusement parks, and we're going to build out an 85,000 square foot esports arena and gaming center in Sandusky, Ohio, at their marquee park, Cedar Point. And last but not least, wrote a book on marketing to gamers. It's called The Esports Revolution, How Visionary Brands Connect with Gen Z. There's the shameless plug of the day, folks. And we're going to jump right into the topic. So marketing to gamers, essentially gamers, for the most part, overlap. There's gamers of all ages, of course, but overlap a lot with Gen Z. And Gen Z is that generation of anyone born after the year of 1996. There's 3 billion of them worldwide. 65% of Gen Z prefers to keep in touch online through social networks. And essentially you have a generation where there's they've cut the cord, disconnected from TVs. So you have a lot of streaming, which means for advertisers and marketers, no commercials, or you have fast forward through, recorded content. Also ad blockers online. So those traditional ways of reaching, demographics through Facebook, through Instagram, anything online, ad blockers kind of block that out. So the dilemma for marketers today is, how do you reach this next generation of consumers? And the proposition here is marketing to gamers, and how do you reach that demographic? So I think that's what we're going to talk about here today. What I'd like to jump into is just kind of cue it off with a very general type question about sponsorships. So guys, what do you think is the breakdown between sponsorship marketing as far as online and virtual, traditional sponsorships like in arenas, so regular stadiums for sports and that sort of thing, and then also sponsorships with influencers and the like.
Sure. So it's interesting because that is evolving quickly. If you look at some of the top advertising and marketing in games leading up to now, some of the biggest things were to have these in-game ads. There's this game, Two Dots, that does it really phenomenally, where it's basically a difficult puzzle game that by and each time you start a new puzzle, you can start with an extra boost by watching a 30-second ad. And if you don't, then it's a little bit harder to accomplish the puzzle and to accomplish this next stage. And so I've played the game. I've watched hundreds of ads willingly instead of wanting to get rid of them. I click on it and I sit there and let it play because I want the boost, And so that's one element. Moving into the virtual space is interesting because we're finding sponsorship that ties more to traditional sponsorship of real world physical events where they want signage in the environment with the sponsor's logo on it, which is what you would do at a conference with signage hanging from the ceiling or from the backdrop or on the step and repeat behind the red carpet, and who's sponsoring these things, who's paying for the experience to be built, and how are they showing off that they're paying for it. Is that very similar to traditional sponsorship where they're going to have canopies with their logo on it, or Bud Light. We've done virtual events where Bud Light was a sponsor. So there were Bud Lights around, and there was a bar with a Bud Light, the stage had a Bud Light brand, and we looked at traditional concerts and looked at the stages for inspiration on how, what works for their branding. And it did work for them. These brands liked it. We did it for McDonald's and for Bud Light and a handful of others that it resonated with them perfectly because they understood it. They understood that what that means. If you're getting their eyes, people can tell that it's this experience is brought to you by this brand. And I think we're going to see more and more of that with virtual reality and augmented reality.
Yeah, fantastic. Jeff, what do you
I
think?
can just piggyback off that a lot. One of the things I see in my experience dealing with physical esports events in person, a lot of the sponsors and advertisers tend to be non-endemic brands. And so they are typically used to sponsoring traditional sport events. So they tend to look at the world through that lens. So we do see a lot of the things that Finn mentioned, like banners and physical sponsorships in arena. One of the beautiful things about esports is the digital nature and some of the things you can do, with the games and with things in game. So I do think as advertisers get more creative and as esports entities start to get more creative, there's a lot more things that we can do in the advertising space that aren't just let's name the stadium something, or this is presented by Bud Light. There's things you could do, rewarded ads, stuff like that. All of us who deal with gamers, we know gamers don't love advertising, but they do tend, like rewarded ads tend to be better than banner ads and things. Just people sponsor, like slapping the logo on things. That tends to come off as non-authentic. But if you can integrate it into gameplay, kind of gamify things, that tends to do a lot better. So I think it's a big opportunity that's out there that I think brands aren't really taking advantage of it as well as they could just yet.
Yeah, one of the interesting things like I was talking about when we did a virtual space, we had a Bud Light seltzer limp flying around, and a lot of people we get in VR, they do look up to look around. So people actually thought that was like really cool, like looking at the plan, and otherwise was willing to pay for that. But one of the interesting things is after moving to more like Ray-Ban glasses and everything, it's like they manufacturers do eye tracking. So that almost goes to that whole space of where, it's kind of a better sell saying, hey, here's a few cents every time someone, where it proves you, an activity log or something the sponsors really like that. Actually, when we do these like events, we get that. I mean, we've done things where we've crashed, not always where we crash, that's not right, but where we used up all the worries, the world, where, like 5,000 people come into one event and we're getting advertisements. So, they are getting the eyes.
Yeah, if you think about where another place you mentioned that sponsorship goes into, and it's a cyclical kind of symbiotic relationship between is the influencers. Influencers help the developers get eyes and on the product, the desire to want to play it, and then by doing so, they build their community by which the sponsorships want to sponsor influencers with community. And so it helps all each other, because for the developer, it's really difficult to find sponsors because oftentimes the developers aren't the one with the community. Oftentimes it's the influencers. So like, for instance, with some of our games, we have, our Prime fan base does not necessarily align with the Prime's consumer base. So where VR consumers are a bit older, VR fan base is quite young, watching YouTubers who are VR consumer base. And so then the streamers that are in their 20s or 30s that are these popular influencers, they get sponsorship by a major brand because they have millions of children watching their content. And so then you have this kind of balance of like what's good for the brand based on the personality of the influencer, and these influencers kind of essentially trying to create their image of what would be good for sponsors to get behind. And that conversation is really interesting to listen to, kind of some of the hurdles that they have to also succumb to, because they want to make sure that their content has a certain flair to it or is safe, for a certain demographic. So therefore, the sponsors want to keep it on. And then again, by building content that kind of sets those influencers up, you build content for the influencers to engage with. That gets them more fans. They send more fans to want to play the game, and therefore build their community and get more sponsorships.
Yeah, fantastic. So essentially, what we're hearing is some forms of sponsorship, like traditional sponsorships in arena, at a football or basketball game, is very transferable to like a HyperX esports arena, and then some is innovative. And I love the kind of the incentive to be able to watch an ad and boost the score. The very nature of esports or gaming is competitive, and to be able to entice or incent somebody to sit for your ad is an environment that doesn't necessarily exist when I'm just streaming a show and I see that button that says skip ad, right? And so, 9 out of 10 people skip the ad, and those marketers are paying for that, right? So I think you have opportunities within gaming that doesn't exist in a traditional environment. One other quick thing on this question, Jeff, you mentioned the word authentic, and with especially the gaming community with Gen Z, authenticity is really critical. To be able to come off and not be sold to, but be presented like authentic product placement or authentic type of opportunities to be able to view ads or be able to product purchase is really important with this generation, Gen Z especially. What do you guys think is the opportunity for authentic product placement and authentic type of ads to connect to gaming?
Well, I think one way that we're going to continue to see as people are able to display their digital collection, both like NFTs and their rating and their following, and in this case, their sponsorships and things like this. People like to show accolade of who they are and what they've earned. People like in Steam to show how many achievements they've unlocked and all these things. And so I could imagine as this continues to grow, more opportunities to show off what you've earned, tie that into that same, if you look at the mobile gaming market, the top performing apps are these free apps that have done what I mentioned earlier with Two Dots, that have done that really well, where essentially it's a free game, free play. you hit a paywall or you could pay through, but you don't have to pay because you could just watch more ads, earn more tokens, and the tokens can buy these things. And so if you turn that into the sports, spectating, and community aspect, well, maybe there's these things where as digital content, digital accessories become collectible, and my library of stuff that I've collected becomes shown to the rest of my community, I could imagine there being this element where essentially, again, the best ads are the ones that people willingly engage with rather than are annoying them and they don't want to sit through, but rather they're willing to click on watch ad to earn blah. And so the notion of being able to watch this ad to earn more credit, to be able to customize your avatar or customize your banner space or customize your standing in the community. I think those, as this platform evolves and as the communities of these, metaverse experiences and stuff evolve, and especially with esports, people want to wear their favorite jersey to the game. They want to wear their favorite
Yeah, I think that interactivity is pretty key. This generation of gamers, call it a TikTok generation, right? Very visually oriented, visual appeal is what resonates, and the more that advertisements can be interactive, I think resonates much more. Jeff, you had a comment?
Yeah, no, I was just going to kind of agree with that. I mean, authenticity is certainly a buzzword because I was first, so maybe that's on me. But it is hard to define a little bit. But as Finn was talking, it kind of got in my mind this concept of, nobody likes to be talked at. I think a lot of times when brands make a mistake, it's like it's almost like they're viewing gamers as like these weird nerds that they have to talk. It's like, we know we need to market to those people. The companies are really successful are the ones that are providing ways for those people to engage with their brands. I think what you said about NFTs is really smart. A way for people to show affinity for a product. You basically create your own little marketers within the community. So I think that's a really creative way for brands to engage with this community. Is not by pushing things at them and talking at them, rather giving them a way to engage.
Yeah, so traditionally there's this psychology around marketing, especially when it comes to games, especially when it comes to productizing people to purchase something. They say basically bad marketing is making people think about your product. Good marketing is making people think about themselves. So when successful ads are ones that when people watch it, they identify their life. It sounds like they're describing something in their life. They don't even think about the product. They're being brought a window into their life that they experience, an opinion they have. And then at the end, it ties into what the product is that now is, don't you realize this is already in your life? This is solving a solution for what you already have a problem with. Those are the kind of advertisements that really resonate with people and become successful marketing campaigns. So again, with that authenticity, instead of cramming things down people's throats, instead of making them watch these experiences, these ads, instead incentivize people to want to watch the ad, to want to dig into it, to just provide the opportunity for them to watch these ads, but don't force them to. And then by incentivizing that, mobile apps have already shown that you get tenfold more engagement with people actually engaging with the ads and clicking through and purchasing products when they're not actually forced to watch the ads, but rather they're incentivized to watch in the first place. And then the ads that they are watching are not speaking about the content or not speaking about the product, but rather speaking to the person about their life.
Awesome insight. Thank you. Bill, any thoughts on authenticity here?
Well, I mean, I do find it very interesting the way, the real world advertised, where you have brands like Gucci, where the young girls are actually buying little Gucci bags, wearing their Amazon, and they promote that where they say they even had a bag that actually costs more to buy, the girls buy it, than the actual Gucci bag. So, but you can imagine if you say, hey, give us your email and you get that for free. That would very incentivize. I mean, they would want to do that as opposed to a forced advertisement, where it's something that a need that's fulfilled. And a lot of other brands could do something like that. They put a price on it and then say, hey, you want to do this,
even more so, there were this Gucci bag thing in Roblox. Phenomenal marketing campaign, but even more so, they didn't just sell Gucci bags to girls, which traditionally is the target demographic for Gucci bags, is the female audience. There were boys that wanted the collectible because it was an item to collect and show. It's the same reason why people, own the Mercedes, is to show off what you've collected, to show off your resources. People like that in these digital environments. So you saw boys buying the Gucci bags so that they could either gift them, but just so that they could hold them, just so they could show that I have these, I have these expensive shoes too. Or I have this bag, and it's not about wanting to have the bag for utility or to wear it on your person. It was about to show it that I collected this in this space. And I think that was a really clever marketing campaign.
No, absolutely. That's how the boy gamers get the girl gamers, right? The Gucci bags. So it's pretty evident, I think, how endemic sponsors have their place in the gaming world, right? The gaming chairs, the headsets, etc. Non-endemic sponsors, you mentioned Gucci, the AT&Ts, the Verizons, the Coca-Colas of the world. What do you think the appeal to those non-endemics are? What if I'm talking to a CMO and asking them to commit advertising budget in the gaming world? What do you think the biggest appeal to gaming to these non-endemics might be?
Brand awareness, I would say, is a big thing. Like, if they're not directly saying, oh, look, because we sponsored this, we must be, it's reasonable to say, why does Microsoft get behind the metaverse? Because they host Azure and they have a service that says this is good. But why does Goodyear sponsor football games? It's not because anything involved in football has anything to do with Goodyear. It's because the brand wants people to identify with that logo, identifies this brand likes something that I like, right? And so if you think about this in that same sense, that's where skins on avatars, jerseys with sports teams' names, actual cars being in the game, having real cars, real branded cars in the game, and instead of the game developers having to license that likeness, let it flip the other direction where the brand is essentially paying the developers funding to build the game and to build their content into the game, to have signage on the billboards in the game with their logo, because there's going to be millions of potential future customers that are going to now identify that with, Goodyear likes what I like. And I think that's going to continue to resonate as these virtual worlds. And so essentially what we're preparing to do is sell virtual realty, right? So it's like not virtual reality, but a virtual realty where you're essentially selling space, visual space. And I think that's really important for brands to be able to get out there. And it's also really important for developers, because a lot of the developers that are building this innovative technology need funding. And they're not in a place, it's not the same kind of corporate structure to be able to easily raise seed funding or sell equity and all these things. It's quite difficult. And so to have a partnership on these development opportunities to bring the brands into the game and then fund the game's existence, those are great symbiotic relationships.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jack?
The only thing I think that was very well said. The only thing I would add to that is just what you let us off at the top, Larry, is just the value of the demographics of this audience. Majority Gen Z, very hard to reach with traditional advertising. Cord cutters, people aren't, they're clicking skip on all the ads. So this is a valuable demographic, and they're here in gaming. And we've kind of already touched on some of the ways that advertisers can engage with them to get that awareness.
And I also think there's a component to it with artificial intelligence, where they can see what the gamer, what type of advertisements they are willing to watch, look at age demographics where they can change it. So I might be playing a game at my age, and my son is 15. We can see different advertisements on the same game, and a lot of that's begin to happen. Through the software developers, very important game design to be able to do stuff like that. just make it more efficient and more profitable.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't want like kids don't want to see an alt space ad. I mean, or an Allstate ad.
Or Budweiser ad.
Yeah, or Budweiser ad to kids.
Budweiser ad.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
great to sell them a new PlayStation game, in another competitive game.
Right. Exactly right. And I think that brand awareness really hits it on the head. One statistic that I jotted down here, when all of the different generations, boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, is polled, the importance of brand reputation, Gen Z ranks at the highest. As far as the polling, when you ask about product quality, Gen Z ranks at the lowest. So it's interesting. So in this world of influencers and awareness and individualization, really the brand reputation, branding, is the highest critical component that a marketer can bring to the table to this next generation of consumers.
That's really interesting because you actually do see that. You see a lot of the new fads and the popular content that is catching on fire more often than not now with younger kids. It's not about the quality; it's about the brand. And so you see a lot of these extremely successful products that aren't necessarily that durable or that high quality, but they just gotta get it day one. They want to be able to bring it to school. They want to show on their Instagram that they have it, and it's not because it's the best product. It's because it's the newest product and it's the most well-known product. And I have to have it because the celebrity endorsed it.
Yeah, a big hot button for gamers and Gen Z is FOMO, right? Fear of missing out and not getting in on that. And so that speaks to everything we've been talking about here. So absolutely. Another thought about marketing to gamers is the monotonization of gamer marketing. So for instance, on Instagram or Facebook, you have an ad pop up, you click it, you buy it right there. Thoughts on authentic product placements in games and the growth path to be able to monetize that revenue stream.
To some extent, this is something gaming's been doing for a long time in game purchases. Not necessarily branded items, but I think there's a method, particularly as you get into sort of more metaverse and stuff like Roblox, where you have an avatar. You could easily basically advertising immediately your time rights of purchasing. So that's a mechanic that gamers are completely very comfortable with, is buying in-game items. So I think that I never even heard that word. That's a good one. I think that's something that gamers are very comfortable with. So.
Yeah. So we do this a lot. Making custom avatar skins, making accessories for your games. If it's a multiplayer game, you want the ability to customize your avatar, facial hair, hats, jackets, shoes, pants, all these things. But especially with the NFT market booming and the clothing designers and artists getting into the space. For instance, there's this really amazing new company called Self, where what they're essentially doing is building your digital replica of you. And so you can take this replica, have the replica in your wallet. So whenever you go to any of these marketplaces, whether it be Abercrombie & Fitch, Boo, Yeezy, any of these brands, you can go to the website, connect your wallet, your avatar that looks just like you loads into the storefront. It's a scan, so it fits my body projection. Maybe the one I want, but it's even more so the one that even more effective whenever it is your body style. Therefore, you can try on clothes, your avatar. You can see which size fits. You can see how that combination would look with you, and you can purchase stuff online. And then when you purchase stuff online, you can actually also have that digital item online, so that if you go into these metaverse experiences, I can wear these articles of clothing. And that standardization of avatars is something that I've been speaking on for a while now, and I think we're still not seeing it yet, but we're starting to see these companies like Self, Ready Player Me, innovate in that space. And as we see Epic with Fortnite and Roblox with their avatar systems start to create the standard by which clothing designers build accessories, then we're going to start seeing a secondary market for selling accessories for in-game. So it's not going to just be the in-game marketplace that sells its content, but it's going to be a secondary market, like with the NFT market, offers that opportunity where, a clothing designer or a shoe designer or a hat, can be sold as a digital item and then worn in-game, or even better, worn with smart glasses. When you and I are both wearing smart glasses, we're both in the same environment. Both of our smart glasses know where they are, and since we're logged in the same metaverse, my smart glasses knows where you are. So when I look at you, I'm seeing your digital accessories on your real body. I'm seeing what your projection of your avatar you want me to see, and you're being blanked out, and I'm instead seeing you as you're digitally projected in real life. And that's a really interesting space that we're approaching rapidly.
No, and that's a whole other world. I mean, that just takes you in a whole different direction, right? But so next question, you guys. Esports gaming doesn't exist on an island all by itself, right? You're having combinations and hybrids of esports and gaming and sports and entertainment. The question is, what do you see as the combination of esports gaming and traditional type of events? And as an example, I'll cue up last year when the pandemic started, Fortnite ran an event with Travis Scott, who had just dropped his album, had an in-game concert right in the middle of a tournament. That event brought in 45 million viewers. And just as a comparison, the 2020 World Series, Dodgers and Tampa Bay averaged 9.78 million per game. The NBA 2020 Finals, 7.4 million. So you're bringing in an enormous audience by combining these traditional types of either music or maybe other types of sports and gaming and esports. What do you think the future of that is, guys?
I could jump on that again. So one of my previous companies is called Wave. I was the co-founder of Wave and so partner. Their mission is these virtual digital performances. And the Travis Scott concert was, right in line. It looked identical to Wave events, and so it's really taken off. Wave did an event with The Weeknd that I believe had 1.2 billion views on it. It was just phenomenal attendance, both in game and on the streaming side. Since the Travis Scott event, there's been three really major ones in Fortnite. There was Marshmallow, which was a lot of fun. Get up there, dance with them. Travis Scott came out as a giant avatar of Travis Scott, and then more recently, Ariana Grande did one in Fortnite that was absolutely amazing. It was more than just a concert experience; it was an immersive experience. So you flew through a tunnel, a wormhole, chasing Ariana Grande, racing all the other people, and then you end up teleporting through the wormhole onto this giant structure, pyramid kind of obstacle course, where you're racing all the other players in the platform up to the top, and she's dancing with you and then running ahead of you, and you're trying to catch her, and it looks like Ariana Grande, and it's her music. And while maybe not everybody's a fan of her music type, because everybody has their own flavor, the production quality of that experience was absolutely phenomenal. And if you look at what Wave is doing with their concerts, it's just really cool, partnering with these really big performers and stuff. And then what we've done with a lot of our partners with these social environments is essentially building the virtual social environment for people to congregate in, network in, be in, and then the after party with a DJ booth, and we have a real DJ in there DJing the space, and you get to commingle with them, dancing around, setting emojis into the air. They're DJing. They have virtual space, and then what we've also been doing is actually projecting their hologram. So we're recording them and then projecting them in as a hologram on stage, so it feels like you have presence with this person. And especially during the pandemic, it was really cool to come together and be really close together, and that notion of networking attendance, and it sets a perfect stage for things like marketing and brand engagement and sponsorship. Because if you think about it, where does the money come from? The space is too early to charge attendance for. You're not going to sell tickets to a virtual event because it's hard enough just to get people to attend in the first place. So it has to be free. So where's the money coming from? Sponsorship is a perfect place because brand awareness needs eyeballs on their brand, and the developers and the event hosts need money to execute on the event. And then the fans are the consumers. And so the consumer is a long game where, essentially brand awareness is a long game. And so that's what I would say is like the best thing that brands can do is look to teams, not just ours, of course ours, but like not just ours. Look at teams that are building these immersive experiences, these upcoming conferences, these different things that are going to have thousands and thousands of their direct consumer base in it, and align with those events and align with these virtual engagements and say, I want to have a brand in that. I want to have our brand. How can we get our brand in that space? And by having like a signage that looks like it's hanging on the wall or a billboard that has their brand on it, it feels like they're set in this world and they're part of, like we were saying earlier, this brand likes the same thing I like. That's so much more valuable than what is this brand, or this brand is showing me their product. That doesn't matter to me. Saying that this brand is part of my ecosystem makes me want to align to that brand, regardless of what the product is.
Oh, 100%, absolutely. And that word immersiveness is I think huge, and it's unique to the gaming world. You talked about the Ariana Grande, and the tunnels and the immersive nature of what they pulled off with that. I think it just makes me think of that's what the Weeknd was trying to do at a Super Bowl halftime show, and pull you into a world, and it's hard to pull off in a television format, but you put it into a gaming environment. You could build whole worlds and experiences that have that immersiveness and be able to absorb the viewer into that world. And you're exactly right. Bring that brand experience into it as part of that.
Yeah, people actually said that they liked the halftime show in our experience better than they liked the halftime show. It wasn't because they didn't like the halftime show, it was because being around a bunch of other avatars and experienced this halftime show together, it like all came together so nicely.
Yeah, actually, if you think about it, you watched it when we did the halftime show that Vince talking about. If you watch it at home, like a child, you just looking at a TV. It was a much better experience that they were socializing with other actors while we had on stage. So sometimes they were talking to each other. We had Bud Light as a sponsor there. So Red Bull too, it was profitable for us. So it was, it was a better experience than watching it on TV. It just, they need to get, I actually think like the teams need to get behind that type of stuff a lot more. Sure.
Yeah, and fun is organic, right? The theory of fun and the theory of engagement, that's a very organic theory, and so like, it was funny because we had a Red Bull trailer in our tailgating experience. We had a big Bud Light bar. We had the what do you call it? The little beanbags, cornhole game where people could throw a cornhole. They had the jerseys. People could put the jerseys on and take selfies, put the helmets on and stuff like that. There was a step and repeat backdrop where people felt like they were supporting their team and taking selfies. But then they had we had this Red Bull trailer that was essentially showing off the brand. Had a big, just like Red Bull had the big can and stuff on the top of the trailer. But we had this little bug where you could reach inside the trailer and teleport inside the trailer, because that's how the platform worked, where you could teleport around. Well, we had collision, but people could reach inside and teleport inside, and it was this goofy, funny secondary thing where people started, look, you can teleport inside, and all of a sudden the space got really thin and there was a lot of people in there, and I was like, wait, but I can hear everybody laughing and joking around, and I peeked my head inside the Red Bull. There was like 30 people crammed inside the Red Bull trailer, all laughing and talking about Red Bull. And that is a really interesting notion where you didn't mean to do it, but like Red Bull ended up talking about that was really amazing. You had all these people streaming the live event, plus just engaging with our brand and talking about the Red Bull trailer and, oh, meet me in the Red Bull trailer. And they were like saying the word Red Bull. And how important is it for a brand to be able to get people talking about it, get people wanting, knowledgeable about just getting it in their ecosystem. And that was one of those weird kind of zany moments where, it was just a lot of fun. Everyone was laughing and everybody kind of, was just this organic, fun element in the social engagement.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Well, not necessarily something that's planned. You never know when that viral moment is going to happen, right? So, absolutely. So, a combination of esports, gaming, and then traditional events, sports. Jeff, EEG has had a lot of fantastic announcements as far as partnerships with traditional sports teams and that this year. Any kind of thoughts on direction you see that EEG going with
I mean,
that?
it's a lot of what we've talked about today. I mean, I think they are looking at their fan bases and saying, hey, we have 8 home games a year in the case of the NFL, and our season at best is 4 months long. How do we engage with them for 12 months? And we know that a lot of our players are gamers, and almost all of our fans are gamers. And the people who are gamers who aren't our fans, we want to be our fans. So, we partnered with a lot of these brands to basically help them engage with their fans and participate in tournaments for prizes on the teams. So it's been a good partnership.
Yeah, I think that'll only continue to grow. So,
Yeah, actually, one of the things I know when of Finn's events was after the event, like say like after the NFL game, everybody wanted over to our virtual nightclub rankings. So it's even keeping the viewership. It's like, okay, game's over. Let's all now go to the nightclub. So it makes it almost like a Vegas experience when you come out of the show and get to the nightclub. Right now they're doing a Super Bowl, and then Super Bowl's over. And it's like, now what? Oh no, now we're all going to go to the nightclub and you can keep up that socialization, and you still have the brand, and maybe you have like the virtual players coming in, after the game, and it just keeps, they more selling, like NFL, more viewership.
Right, and then what works well for branding in nightclubs works well for branding in virtual nightclubs. Vodka, Absolute being behind the bar, Budweiser being on the cocktail tables, having these branded sponsorships around you, and so it's kind of secondary. It's not brought to you by Budweiser right in your face, but instead Budweiser is the drink of choice at the Super Bowl, right? It makes people thirsty for a Bud, and so that notion to bring a brand that is what can allow brands to get behind it, and so one of our other big, probably one of the most popular events is Fail to Render Comedy. So we have a virtual reality comedy club where we have professional comedians performing on stage every Thursday and Friday night and the last Saturday of every month. These professional comedy shows, and Chicken Waffle built what looks like a real comedy club, several real comedy club locations, and then we have stages with a green room where they come out from behind the stage and they give their set, and you're in virtual reality surrounded by people laughing and watching a professional comedy set on stage with the comedian getting paid oftentimes more than they make in real life comedy clubs in our virtual club. And it's a professional set, and people are like laughing, and you're surrounded by people laughing. When you take your headset off after an hour of that, it feels like you just walked in from being at a comedy club. And that notion of that's one of the probably the most transcendent experiences, which is weird because really all you're doing is sitting there listening to comedy. But the reason that it's so transcendent is that that's what you do in a real comedy club. Is you sit there and laugh around each other, and laughter is very infectious, and so. Aligning that with what works well for branding. Well, what works well for branding in a comedy club? Again, it's usually there's a bar associated, so it's like liquor branding. It's to an older audience. We basically have right on things like 18 and up because of some of the stuff that you're going to hear in the comedy club. But it's fun, and people are cracking up and roaring with laughter and sharing it online afterwards. And so brands want to be part of that. Is that oh look, there's this viral content people love. I want my brand to be part of something that people love. And I think that is where a lot of these like esports with the community already behind Counter-Strike Go and already behind Dota 2 and already behind League of Legends, there's a huge community there. So in between, if it has a sub-element as just brand awareness, if the jersey that their favorite gamer or the top champion's wearing, just like in bicycling or in football or anything else, Nike wants to have their logo on that football. Well, just like in esports, Alienware wants to have their logo on that gaming rig. Whatever brand, you name it, wants to have their logo on the sleeve of that esports player because they are now a champion. They are now a celebrity. They're competing and they're winning and they're standing up on stage and getting the accolades. And that it's just that kind of secondary subliminal marketing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, we're looking for those unique aspects of gaming and esports where marketers can kind of latch onto that, right? And having that immersive comedy club experience is much different than just watching the new Chris Rock special on Netflix at home by yourself on your living room couch. You're in an experience virtually with other people laughing and having that experience together. So it's a communal kind of thing.
It feels real.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing is that it's maybe one of the most realistic feeling experiences because you're doing the same thing you would do in real life, and it's fun, and you're laughing. Like I said, laughter is very infectious. So when you hear people laughing around you, things are even more funny than ever before. That's why most comedy clubs have shallow ceilings, and they put everybody right up on stage so that whenever people chuckle, you're like, waves of laughter on the stage, and that's just really, it's a really intriguing thing. One of the elements that we do in there too is we have this green room backstage. So again, it's hard to say how do you monetize this, right? Where's the marketing? Where's the monetization? Well, what we have is we have a tier of audience that is allowed to come backstage after the show and commingle with the professional comedians, get to chat with them, hang out, and that notion is really important to people. That's what actually sells in real life too. You get the base minimum kind of ticket that you're just trying to really fill the club, but then you have this meet and greet opportunity that you sell a VIP ticket to. And then people like to also have that accolade to being like, I'm VIP, I'm on the list. People like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So next question, we touched on it briefly earlier. Influencers, the ninjas of the world, no tail, the top gamers, right? One thing that I find interesting is a couple years ago, 2019, Tiger Woods, after being a professional golfer for 20 plus years, wins the Masters tournament and becomes the first player ever to win $2 million in a tournament. He became the first $2 million man in a tournament. That same year, Kyle Buga-Ursdorf, did I say that right? 16-year-old kid won a Fortnite tournament, won $3 million. So just looking at these comparisons, if you're non-endemic type brands, looking on the outside in and saying, where's my traction in this world? Is it just nerdy gamers, in their basement? This is a whole world, and there's a lot of money on the table now, and so leading that charge in gaming are the influencers. Any thoughts on kind of the growth of that or the impact of influencers on gaming and specific to marketing?
Sure. I mean, one of my favorite influencers, her name's Sweetless. That's her tag, Emma. She's really got a great outlook on what it takes to be a successful influencer, what it takes to get the sponsorship, but also how to treat their fans, how to treat her fans, and how to communicate, how to engage them, bring them into the conversation. These are very important pieces, and when you look at the prize giving, right, for these games, it is hard to be the one that wins. So therefore, it's tough. It's not just easy to win. You got to be really skilled in practice and train and all these things. But then people are saying, "Oh, that's crazy that it's more than Tiger Woods made." Well, just the statistics that you showed earlier, there's more eyes on this platform, and so that's where the sponsorship chases. And so, to look at some of the positive, kind of influential influencers that people want to kind of mimic themselves against. There are some that are shock value, but that's short-lived. You look at somebody like Sleeveless, and she is investing in her own brand by the way she acts, by the way she treats people, by the way she gets in Clubhouse and talks to developers. She's on the video game threads. She's talking to the developers and collaborating with developers. So she gets early beta access and plays these games. And also, she's just a good gamer. I've tried to go up against her on some puzzle things, and she's like just slams me. And so like that notion of using their skill and then just like in basketball, just like in golf, the people that rise up that have big sponsorships around them, sometimes there's really talented people that don't have sponsorships because they're not necessarily good role models, right? And so I think it's important for brands to get behind good role models, and it's important for influencers to use their platform in a positive light, and so to be good influence on the youth base, on their fans and stuff like that, and lead by example, as we've seen it being responsible for basketball players or football players or golfers or whoever in the limelight to kind of use that limelight for a better purpose than just to make money, but rather to influence their fan base in a positive light.
Yeah, fantastic. Jeff, Bill, any final thoughts on influencers?
I'll just go real quick. I mean, I think if someone, it's really an area where I think esports is years ahead of traditional sports. And someone on a panel yesterday made a really good analogy. Streaming is as if you could watch LeBron James practice on a daily basis, type a message to him, have him respond to you, and then also be practicing with him and playing against him all at once, and then subscribe to him and pay him personally. Like it's just wildly different interaction than what we see in traditional sports. And I think gaming is clearly ahead in that way. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it definitely relates to young children. They love to watch influencers play games. It's amazing the amount of eyes they get. So it's a really great point into the industry.
No, absolutely. So I think we're getting the time signal. Guys, Finn, Jeff, Bill, thank you very, very much. Excellent panel, and appreciate your thoughts and contributions. Absolutely want to thank Ari and Ben Fox for putting this couple-day event together. Just an excellent exchange of ideas and that. So appreciate you tuning in to Marketing for Gamers.
Thank you.
Living if you're already there, it's not worth saying if it's already said. Even if it all goes over your head, believe it if you want to. So keep your eyes on the road and your head in the stars. Follow it down the rabbit hole just a little while longer. You can change anything if you want to. Sing it like ooh, if you want to. Sing it like ooh.